From happiness to heartbreak, wife's secret sacrifice for love will make you cry. True love story, 2024. Welcome to Mr. Peter Stories. Write your name and city in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more captivating tales. Love you all. Chapter 1. Childhood Sweethearts. An epic tale of love and destiny. The Arizona sun painted the sky in hues of amber and rose as it descended behind the majestic Superstition Mountains, casting long shadows across the prestigious Phoenix Valley Academy's perfectly manicured lawns. It was here, in this haven of privilege and promise, that destiny first wove together the lives of Megan Swister and Kara Schmidt, though neither could have predicted the extraordinary tapestry their love would create. September 1990 marked the beginning of their story, when 7-year-old Megan, with honey-colored curls and eyes that sparkled like desert stars, first stepped into Mrs. Henderson's second-grade classroom. The Swister name carried weight in Arizona's social circles. Her father, Jonathan Swister, had built an empire in sustainable energy, while her mother, Eleanor, was the driving force behind the state's most influential charitable foundations. But young Megan carried none of her family's pretense. Instead, she possessed a gentle soul that seemed to illuminate the spaces around her. On that fateful first day, as she stood nervously clutching her leather backpack, a young boy with jet-black hair and unusually intense eyes approached her. Kara Schmidt, the son of German immigrants who had transformed a small tech startup into a billion-dollar enterprise, extended his hand with a confidence unusual for a 7-year-old. "You can sit next to me," he said, with a smile that would one day capture hearts across Arizona's business world. "I saved the blue chair because it matches your ribbons." That simple act of kindness birthed a friendship that would defy the often superficial nature of their privileged world. As the seasons changed and the desert bloomed and withered, Megan and Kara's bond deepened, nurtured by shared secrets and dreams whispered during lunch breaks and after-school playdates. Their early years were marked by innocent adventures, building elaborate sandcastles in the Schmidts' indoor beach room, searching for desert creatures in the Swisters' vast estate gardens, and creating their own magical world away from the pressures of their parents' expectations. But even in these carefree days, shadows lurked at the edges of their paradise. Victoria Blackwood, daughter of the state's most prominent judge, harbored a possessive interest in Kara that would span decades. Her jealousy manifested in subtle ways at first: excluded birthday party invitations, whispered rumors in the girls' bathroom, and orchestrated social situations designed to separate the inseparable pair. Yet each attempt only served to strengthen the invisible thread connecting Megan and Kara. As they entered their teenage years, their friendship began its gradual metamorphosis into something deeper. At 14, during the school's annual spring gala, Kara watched Megan descend the grand staircase in a pale blue gown, and for the first time his heart skipped a beat. That same night, while their classmates danced to popular songs, they snuck away to their secret spot in the school's astronomy tower. Under a canopy of stars, Kara shared his dreams of revolutionizing the tech industry, while Megan spoke of her passion for art and healing. Their different paths seemed to complement each other perfectly, like two halves of a whole. But their moment of connection was interrupted by Victoria, who had followed them and now stood in the doorway, her face twisted with barely contained rage. What followed was a year of calculated manipulation by Victoria and her influential family. She convinced her father to partner with Schmidt Industries, creating business obligations that forced Kara to spend time with her family. She orchestrated situations that painted Megan in a false light, even going so far as to forge evidence of betrayal that temporarily drove a wedge between the childhood friends. The separation proved unbearable for both. Kara threw himself into sports and academic competitions, earning accolades that felt hollow without Megan's proud smile. Megan retreated into her art, filling canvas after canvas with hidden messages of loss and longing. Their junior year was marked by stolen glances across classrooms and hallways, their hearts growing heavier with each passing day. The truth finally emerged during their senior prom. Victoria's elaborate web of lies unraveled when her closest confidant, consumed by guilt, revealed everything to Kara. The revelation came as he stood crowned as prom king, with Victoria smugly awaiting her moment as queen. Instead of following the script she had so carefully crafted, Kara walked off the stage and through the crowd until he reached Megan, who stood near the exit in a simple green dress that made her eyes shine like emeralds. "I've been a fool," he said, loud enough for nearby students to hear. "Every achievement, every success, every moment of joy in my life has been brighter because of you. Victoria's lies made me doubt everything except one truth. My heart has belonged to you since that first day in second grade." The silence that followed was broken by Victoria's scream of rage, but neither Megan nor Kara heard it. Their first kiss, witnessed by the entire senior class, became the stuff of school legend, not for its drama, but for its purity. A love story coming full circle under the same roof where it began. Their reunion marked the beginning of a new chapter, but it also taught them valuable lessons about trust, forgiveness, and the strength of true connection. Victoria's betrayal, though painful, had tested their bond and proved its resilience. She eventually left Arizona for Europe, but her actions had inadvertently cemented Megan and Kara's relationship. As they graduated and moved on to university, both choosing to attend Stanford to stay together, their love continued to grow. Their different courses of study, Kara in business and technology, Megan in art therapy, created a perfect balance in their relationship. While Kara learned to navigate the corporate world that awaited him, Megan's gentle influence kept him grounded in what truly mattered. Their college years brought new challenges and triumphs. They faced the pressures of their family's expectations, the temptations of new relationships, and the stress of building their own identities. Yet each obstacle only served to strengthen their connection. They studied together in quiet libraries, supported each other's dreams, and planned their future during long walks along the California coast. It was during one such walk, as they discussed their post-graduation plans, that Kara first mentioned marriage. The casual way he brought it up, as if it were the most natural progression in the world, made Megan's heart soar. They were only 19, but both knew with absolute certainty that their love story, which began with a blue chair and a kind gesture, would last a lifetime. The whispers started soon after they returned to Arizona for summer break. Their family's social circles buzzed with speculation about an impending engagement, while business publications eagerly anticipated the merger of two of the state's most powerful families. But Megan and Kara remained in their own world, their love unsullied by external expectations or societal pressure. Their story inspired others in their community. Young couples looked to them as proof that true love could flourish even in the often superficial world of wealth and privilege. Their parents, who had watched their relationship grow from innocent friendship to deep love, found themselves re-evaluating their own marriages, reminded of the pure joy that true connection brings. As autumn approached and their final year of college beckoned, Kara began planning a proposal that would honor both their past and their future. He remembered every detail of their journey, every laugh, every tear, every triumph and every challenge. Their love story, which began in a sun-drenched classroom in Arizona, had grown into something rare and precious, like a desert flower that blooms against all odds. Unknown to them both, their greatest challenges lay ahead. The proposal, the wedding, and the tragic events that would test their love were still to come. But in that moment, as they stood on the cusp of their future together, their love shone like a beacon in the desert night, pure and unassailable, a testament to the power of true connection in a world often devoid of genuine emotion. Their story would eventually become legend in Arizona, told and retold in social circles and business meetings, at charity galas and family gatherings. But its most beautiful chapters were these early days, when love bloomed from friendship, survived betrayal, and emerged stronger for having been tested by fire. The sun set on their childhood years, painting the sky in the same colors that had witnessed their first meeting. As darkness fell over the desert, their love continued to light the way forward, guiding them toward a destiny that would transform not only their lives, but the lives of all who witnessed their extraordinary journey. In the end, their story would prove that true love, born in innocence and strengthened by adversity, has the power to change the world. Chapter 2. A Love Blossoms, the Evolution of Hearts. Stanford University's sprawling campus buzzed with the energy of ambitious dreams and newfound independence as autumn leaves danced across the quad. For Megan Swister and Kara Schmidt, their college years would prove to be more than just an academic pursuit. They would become the crucible in which their love was tested, strengthened, and transformed into something extraordinary. Their decision to attend Stanford together had raised eyebrows among Arizona's elite. Many whispered that they were too young to tie themselves to childhood sweethearts, that college should be a time of exploration and new connections. The Blackwood family, still smarting from Victoria's humiliation at prom, particularly delighted in spreading rumors about the inevitable failure of young love in the face of collegiate temptations. But Megan and Kara approached their university years with a wisdom beyond their years. They established a delicate balance between togetherness and independence, understanding that their love would grow stronger if they allowed each other space to develop as individuals. Kara immersed himself in the cutting-edge world of Silicon Valley entrepreneurship, while Megan discovered her passion for art therapy in the university's prestigious psychology department. Their dormitory arrangements placed them in different buildings, Megan in Florence Moore Hall and Kara in Stern, a separation that initially filled them with anxiety, but ultimately proved beneficial. The distance, though minimal, taught them to appreciate their time together more deeply. They established rituals that would become cherished memories. Wednesday night study sessions in Green Library, Sunday brunches at Cooper Cafe, and moonlit walks around Lake Lagunita. During their sophomore year, their relationship faced its first serious test. Alexandra Montenegro, a brilliant computer science major from Brazil, became Kara's project partner in an advanced programming course. Her intelligence, ambition, and exotic beauty caught the attention of everyone in the tech department, and she made no secret of her interest in Kara. For weeks, she orchestrated situations to spend time alone with him, her flirtations becoming increasingly bold. Megan noticed the attention Alexandra lavished on Kara, and for the first time felt the cold grip of insecurity. She saw in Alexandra everything she wasn't. A technical genius who could understand Kara's passion for technology, who moved in the same circles of coding prodigies and future tech titans. The art therapy major suddenly felt inadequate, her creative soul at odds with the logical, data-driven world Kara was entering. One evening, after finding Kara and Alexandra working late in the computer lab, their heads close together over lines of code, Megan fled to the art studio. There, surrounded by half-finished canvases and the comforting smell of oil paints, she poured her fears onto a canvas. The resulting piece, a swirling storm of blues and greys with a single thread of gold running through it, would later win the university's annual art competition and hang in the Stanford Art Museum. Kara found her there at midnight, her hands stained with paint, tears mixing with the colors on her palette. What followed was a conversation that would define their relationship for years to come. Instead of making excuses or dismissing her fears, Kara sat down among the paint tubes and brushes and opened his heart completely. "Do you know why I fell in love with you?" he asked, gently taking her paint-stained hands in his. "It's not despite our differences, it's because of them. Alexandra understands binary code, but you understand the binary code of the soul. When I'm lost in algorithms and data structures, your art reminds me that life is more than ones and zeros. You're not my opposite, Megan. You're my complement." That night marked a turning point in their relationship. Megan began attending some of Kara's tech talks, not to understand every detail, but to share in his passion. In turn, Kara started spending Sunday afternoons in the art studio, his clumsy attempts at painting making Megan laugh even as she admired his willingness to step out of his comfort zone. Their junior year brought new challenges as they moved off campus to a small apartment in Palo Alto. Learning to live together, to navigate the mundane details of shared space and daily routines, added new dimensions to their love. They discovered each other's quirks, Kara's habit of leaving coffee cups everywhere, Megan's tendency to lose track of time while painting. But each small friction point became an opportunity for growth, for learning the art of compromise and consideration. Their academic pursuits began to intertwine in unexpected ways. Kara's final project for his entrepreneurship class was a virtual reality platform designed to help art therapy patients express their emotions in three-dimensional space, an idea inspired by watching Megan work with children at her internship. Megan's thesis on the role of technology in art therapy drew heavily from Kara's understanding of human-computer interaction. News of their successes reached back to Arizona, where their family's social circles watched with growing approval. The young couple was proving that love could coexist with ambition, that romance didn't have to compromise achievement. Even Victoria Blackwood, who had transferred to Oxford University, couldn't help but follow their story through social media, her bitterness slowly giving way to reluctant admiration. During their senior year, as graduation approached, they faced the question that challenges many college couples. What next? Job offers poured in for Kara from Silicon Valley's top companies, while Megan received acceptance letters from prestigious art therapy graduate programs across the country. The potential for their paths to diverge loomed like a shadow over their final semester. But Kara had been planning. In secret, he had been developing a startup that would revolutionize the intersection of technology and mental health, incorporating art therapy principles into artificial intelligence. His vision was to create something that would allow them to build their future together, combining their passions into a shared dream. The night he revealed his plans to Megan, they sat on the roof of their apartment building, the Silicon Valley lights twinkling below like earthbound stars. As he described his vision, a future where their seemingly different worlds would merge into something revolutionary, Megan saw their entire relationship in a new light. Every difference that had once caused her anxiety now seemed like a piece of a grand design, as if their unique combination of talents and perspectives was always meant to create something extraordinary. Their last months at Stanford were a whirlwind of preparation for the future. They spent countless nights planning their return to Arizona, where they would base their new venture. Megan's artistic sensitivity would guide the therapeutic aspects of their platform, while Kara's technical brilliance would bring it to life. Their love had evolved from the simple purity of childhood to something more complex and profound, a partnership of equals, each bringing their unique gifts to create something greater than themselves. As graduation day approached, they took one final walk around the campus that had witnessed their transformation. The setting sun painted the sandstone buildings in shades of gold, reminding them of their desert home. They stopped at each meaningful spot, The library, where they had spent countless hours studying side by side. The art studio, where Megan had confronted her deepest fears. The computer lab, where Kara had realized that his greatest innovation would be inspired by love. Standing under the shade of a towering oak tree in the main quad, Kara pulled Megan close and whispered, "Every success I've achieved here has been brightened by sharing it with you. Every failure has been softened by your support. We're not just graduating with degrees, we're graduating with a blueprint for a lifetime together." Megan's response was to pull him into a kiss that caught the attention of passing students, reminding everyone of that magical moment at their high school prom. But this time, they weren't teenagers taking a stand against doubt and manipulation. They were adults who had proven that true love doesn't just survive life's challenges. It thrives on them, growing stronger and more beautiful with each obstacle overcome. Their Stanford years had transformed them from high school sweethearts into partners ready to take on the world. Their love had matured like a fine wine, gaining depth and complexity while retaining its essential sweetness. As they prepared to return to Arizona, they carried with them not just diplomas and dreams, but a love story that would inspire generations to come. Little did they know that their greatest challenges and their greatest triumphs still lay ahead. The proposal that would capture the imagination of Arizona society, the wedding that would become legend, and the tragic events that would test their love to its very limits were all yet to come. But in those final moments on Stanford's campus, their love shone with a brilliance that seemed capable of illuminating any darkness that might lie ahead. The chapter of their college years was ending, but their story was far from over. They had learned that love, like education, is a journey of constant growth and discovery. Their time at Stanford had taught them that the greatest achievements come not from individual brilliance, but from the magical combination of complementary souls working in harmony. As they drove back to Arizona, their hearts were full of dreams, their minds brimming with plans, and their love stronger than ever before. Chapter 3. A Proposal to Remember. Love. Written in the stars. The Arizona desert held its breath on that fateful evening in June, as if nature itself knew it was about to witness something extraordinary. Kara Schmidt, now 23 and already making waves in the tech industry, had spent 6 months planning what would become known as the most romantic proposal in Arizona's history. The pressure of being heir to the Schmidt technology empire weighed heavily on his shoulders, but nothing mattered more than making this moment perfect for Megan. The sun was setting over the Superstition Mountains, painting the sky in brilliant strokes of orange and purple as Kara's elaborate plan began to unfold. He had chosen their spot carefully, the private peak overlooking the valley where they had shared their first kiss as teenagers. But tonight, the familiar location had been transformed into something magical. The winding path leading to the summit was lined with thousands of white roses, each hand-selected to match the exact shade of the dress Megan had worn when they first met in 2nd grade. Solar-powered lights twinkled among the flowers, creating the illusion of a path made of starlight. The air was filled with the gentle notes of their favorite song, "Can't Help Falling in Love," performed live by a string quartet hidden among the desert rocks. Megan, who thought she was attending a charity gala, grew quiet as their chauffeur-driven car turned onto the private road leading to the mountain. Her eyes widened as she took in the illuminated path, and when Kara helped her from the car, she gasped at the sight of 1,000 paper lanterns floating in the darkening sky, each one carrying a message of love written by their friends and family. "Kara," she whispered, her voice catching with emotion, "what is all this?" He simply smiled and offered his arm, leading her along the rose-lined path. As they walked, holographic projections appeared among the desert flora, memories from their shared life playing out like ghost images in the gathering dusk. There they were as children, sharing lunch in the school cafeteria, as teenagers, dancing at prom, as college students, graduating from Stanford. Each projection was accompanied by the actual sound of their laughter and conversations, captured over the years by friends and family. At strategic points along the path, they encountered significant people from their lives. First was Mrs. Henderson, their second-grade teacher, who had witnessed the beginning of their story. She handed Megan a small blue chair charm, a replica of the one Cara had saved for her on their first day of school. Next was Professor Martinez from Stanford, who presented her with a miniature easel representing their college years and Megan's artistic passion. As they climbed higher, the path revealed more treasures. Their old friends from high school waited at various points, each holding a piece of their shared history, a ticket stub from their first movie date, a dried flower from their secret garden, a photograph from their Stanford graduation. Each memento was accompanied by a personal story, reducing Megan to tears of joy and nostalgia. Near the summit, they encountered their parents. Eleanor Swister, elegant as always, embraced her daughter while trying to contain her own emotions. Heinrich and Maria Schmidt, Cara's parents, stood nearby, their usual businesslike demeanor softened by the magnitude of the moment. Each parent handed Megan a letter they had written years ago, when they first recognized that their children's connection was something extraordinary. Finally, they reached the peak. The sight that greeted them took Megan's breath away. The entire valley below had been transformed into a sea of lights, carefully arranged to spell out their story. Thousands of LED lights formed images that morphed from one scene to another. Their first meeting, their high school years, their time at Stanford, and their dreams for the future. In the center of the plateau stood a glass gazebo, its crystal walls reflecting the last rays of the setting sun. Inside, a single blue rose waited on a pedestal, a bio-engineered miracle that had taken Cara's research team months to perfect. It was exactly the shade of Megan's eyes, a living symbol of how science and art could create something beautiful together. As they entered the gazebo, the string quartet's music swelled, and the air filled with the scent of desert flowers. Cara took both of Megan's hands in his, and for a moment, he forgot the carefully prepared speech he had rehearsed for weeks. Looking into her eyes, brimming with tears of joy, he spoke from his heart instead. "Megan," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "from the moment I saved that blue chair for you in second grade, my life has had only one true purpose: to be worthy of your love. You've been my best friend, my inspiration, my partner in every dream and adventure. You bring color to my world of binary code, poetry to my prose, and light to every shadow." He reached into his pocket and withdrew not a ring box, but a small holographic projector. When he activated it, the air around them filled with thousands of tiny points of light, creating a perfect replica of the night sky as it had appeared on the day they first met. In the center of this celestial display floated a single star, brighter than all the others. "I had that star officially named for you," he continued, "but even that feels inadequate. How do you give the sun a star? How do you give an artist a color she hasn't already painted? How do you give your soulmate anything when she's already given you everything?" Cara dropped to one knee, and as he did, the holographic stars rearranged themselves to form the words, "Marry me," against the darkening sky. From another pocket, he produced a ring that took Megan's breath away, a platinum band supporting a rare blue diamond, surrounded by smaller white diamonds arranged in the pattern of their constellation. "Megan Swister," he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent desert, "will you make me the happiest man in the universe by becoming my wife?" Megan's "yes" echoed off the mountain walls, carried by the wind across the valley below. As Cara slipped the ring onto her finger, the sky erupted in a carefully choreographed fireworks display. Each burst of light formed a symbol important to their relationship. A small blue chair, a painter's palette, a computer screen showing a heart made of binary code. Their families and friends emerged from their hiding places, surrounding the couple with love and congratulations. Champagne flowed as a celebrity chef served a gourmet dinner at tables set up under the stars. The string quartet played through the night as couples danced on a glass floor installed over the desert sand. Local media, tipped off about the event, captured the celebration from a respectful distance. By morning, their proposal would be front-page news, not just in Arizona, but across the country. It would set a new standard for romantic gestures among the wealthy elite, though many would try and fail to replicate its perfect combination of grandeur and personal meaning. But Meghan and Cara barely noticed the attention. For them, the most perfect moment came long after the guests had departed, as they sat together on their mountain peak, watching the sunrise paint the desert in shades of gold. Meghan's head rested on Cara's shoulder, her ring catching the first rays of dawn. "You didn't have to do all this," she said softly. "I would have said yes if you'd proposed with a paper ring in our living room." Cara kissed her temple gently. "I know," he replied. "That's exactly why you deserved all this and more. Our love story deserved to be written in the stars." As they drove home that morning, neither could have imagined how their life would unfold. The joy of their wedding, the tragedy that would test their love, and the miraculous way their story would touch countless lives. But in that moment, their hearts were full of nothing but love and dreams of the future they would build together. The proposal became legend in Arizona society, but not for its extravagance or expense. What people remembered most was the look of pure love that passed between Meghan and Cara as they stood in their crystal gazebo, surrounded by stars, both real and manufactured. It was a moment that proved that even in their world of wealth and privilege, true love remained the greatest luxury of all. Chapter 4. The Wedding of the Century, Where Dreams Take Flight. The Arizona Biltmore stood like a desert palace against the backdrop of a perfect October sky, its Frank Lloyd Wright-inspired architecture providing a stunning canvas for what would become known as the Wedding of the Century. The date was October 15th, carefully chosen to coincide with the desert's most clement weather and the rare blooming of night-flowering cereus, Meghan's favorite desert flower. The prestigious hotel had been completely reserved for 3 days, its 39 acres transformed into a wonderland that merged technological innovation with artistic beauty, a perfect reflection of the bride and groom's unique partnership. Cara's tech team had spent months developing custom lighting systems and holographic displays, while Meghan's artistic vision guided the overall aesthetic, creating an atmosphere that felt both futuristic and timeless. The wedding preparations had consumed Arizona's social calendar for the past year. The merger of the Schmidt and Swister families represented more than just a union of hearts. It symbolized the joining of old money and new technology, of European heritage and American dreams. International media clamored for exclusive coverage rights, but the couple remained firm in their decision to keep the ceremony intimate, despite their guest list of 300 of the world's most influential people. Dawn broke on the wedding day with a symphony of colors painting the desert sky. In her preparation suite, Meghan sat before an antique vanity, surrounded by a team of world-renowned stylists. Her wedding dress, a masterpiece created by a collaborative effort between 3 legendary fashion houses, hung nearby like a poem written in silk and stars. The gown featured a unique fabric embedded with microscopic LED threads that could subtly change colors to match the ambient lighting. A perfect marriage of technology and elegance. Meanwhile, in his own suite, Cara reviewed the final preparations on multiple holographic displays. His custom-designed tuxedo, black as desert midnight and lined with the same innovative fabric as Meghan's dress, waited patiently on a bespoke mannequin. Despite the magnitude of the events surrounding them, his thoughts remained fixed on the handwritten vows folded carefully in his pocket. The ceremony was scheduled for sunset, but the celebrations began at noon with a series of curated experiences for the guests. The Biltmore's sprawling grounds had been divided into themed areas representing different chapters of Meghan and Cara's love story. Guests wandered through interactive installations that brought key moments to life: their first meeting in second grade, their high school years, their time at Stanford, and their shared dreams for the future. As the afternoon progressed, guests were treated to performances by a carefully selected array of international artists. A famous cellist played Bach beneath a century-old olive tree, while a modern dance company performed on stages that seemed to float above the hotel's pools. World-renowned chefs prepared dishes that told the story of the couple's relationship through taste and presentation. The ceremony venue itself was a technological and artistic marvel. The Biltmore's Paradise Garden had been transformed into a blend of natural desert beauty and cutting-edge innovation. A canopy of holographic stars twinkled above, programmed to mirror the exact constellation pattern from the night of their engagement. Desert flowers bloomed alongside crystal sculptures that caught and reflected the light in ever-changing patterns. At precisely 6:47 p.m., as the sun began its descent behind the mountains, the wedding ceremony began. The processional was a carefully choreographed dance of tradition and innovation. Each member of the wedding party carried a crystal orb that illuminated in sequence as they walked down the aisle, creating a river of light that led to the altar. Meghan's entrance left the assembled guests breathless. As she appeared at the end of the aisle on her father's arm, the LED threads in her dress began to glow softly, creating the illusion that she was wrapped in starlight. The effect was enhanced by thousands of tiny drones hovering overhead, each one carrying a point of light that formed constellations above the ceremony. The altar itself was a masterpiece of design, a structure that appeared to be made of light and air, with cascading water features that seemed to defy gravity. As Meghan joined Cara beneath this ethereal canopy, their custom-designed attire synchronized, creating subtle patterns of light that flowed between them like visible manifestations of their connection. Their vows were deeply personal, a perfect blend of humor and profound emotion. Cara spoke of algorithms and binary code, using technological metaphors to express the certainty of his love. Meghan responded with references to art and color, describing how Cara had brought new dimensions to her world. As they exchanged rings, platinum bands embedded with quantum dots that could track each other's heartbeats, their words painted a picture of a love that transcended the boundaries between science and art. The moment they were pronounced husband and wife, the entire venue transformed. The holographic canopy above erupted in a display of northern lights, while the surrounding desert bloomed with thousands of phosphorescent flowers, specially engineered for the occasion. The effect was so magnificent that several tech magazines later requested interviews about the innovation behind the display. The reception that followed was an explosion of creativity and luxury. The grand ballroom had been redesigned to reflect different environments as the evening progressed. Guests dined at tables that appeared to float on clouds. Then dance floors materialized from seemingly nowhere. Advanced sound design created perfect acoustic spaces for both intimate conversations and dance music, while holographic displays showed captured moments from the ceremony mixed with scenes from the couple's shared history. The menu was a gastronomic journey through their love story, each course representing a significant moment in their relationship. The appetizer recalled their first date at a local pizza place, reimagined by a Michelin-starred chef. The main course celebrated their European and American heritage, while the dessert was a technological marvel that changed flavors as it was eaten. As the evening progressed, the celebration spilled out into the desert night. Garden paths lit themselves as guests approached, leading to intimate seating areas and secret dance floors. Aerial artists performed against the backdrop of the star-filled sky, while musicians played from balconies and hidden grottos throughout the property. The couple's first dance was a moment of pure magic. As they moved across the floor to a song specially composed for them by a legendary musician, their synchronized outfits created patterns of light that told their love story in silent, luminous poetry. The dance floor itself responded to their movements, creating ripples of light that spread out like waves on a digital sea. At midnight, the celebration reached its crescendo with a display that combined fireworks, drone choreography, and holographic projections to create a three-dimensional retelling of their love story visible for miles around. The show concluded with their initials being written in light across the desert sky, a moment captured by photographers and artists alike. The celebrations continued for 2 more days, each day offering new experiences and celebrations. There were brunches featuring international delicacies, technology showcases highlighting innovations developed specifically for the wedding, and art installations that would later be donated to museums around the world. But amidst all the grandeur and spectacle, it was the quiet moments that guests remembered most vividly. The way Kara's hands trembled slightly as he lifted Megan's veil, the tear that escaped down Megan's cheek during their vows, the look they shared during their first dance that made everyone feel like they were intruding on something deeply private and precious. The wedding made headlines around the world, not just for its unprecedented luxury and technological innovations, but for the palpable love that infused every detail. It set new standards for what a wedding could be, inspiring countless couples to find unique ways to tell their own love stories. Yet for Megan and Kara, the most perfect moment came after all the guests had departed. In the pre-dawn quiet of their 3rd day of celebration, they sat together on the Biltmore's highest balcony, still in their wedding attire. As they watched the desert sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, Megan turned to her new husband and whispered, "I would have married you in a desert cave with only the stars as witnesses." Kara smiled, pulling her close. "I know," he replied, "but our love deserved this celebration. It deserved to be shared with the world." Little did they know that the grandeur of their wedding would soon be contrasted by life's harshest realities. The tragedy that awaited them would test their love in ways that no amount of technology or wealth could prevent. But in that moment, as the sun rose on their new life together, their love shone brighter than all the lights and innovations that had illuminated their celebration. Their wedding would be remembered not just for its spectacle, but as a testament to the power of love to bridge different worlds, art and science, tradition and innovation, past and future. It served as a prelude to a love story that would continue to inspire generations, proving that true love knows no boundaries and fears no challenges. Chapter 5. The world watches media coverage of the Schmidt-Swister wedding. The Arizona morning dawned bright and full of promise, sunlight streaming through the master bedroom windows of the Schmidt mansion. Megan awoke early, her heart racing with excitement as she thought about the news she would share with Kara that evening. The home pregnancy test she had taken at dawn had shown 2 clear pink lines. Their dream of starting a family was finally becoming reality. She had planned everything perfectly. The private dining room at their favorite restaurant was reserved. The chef prepared to serve the special menu she had arranged. She would tell Kara over dessert, watching his face as she shared the news they had been hoping for since their wedding 3 years ago. But fate had other plans for that perfect autumn day. The morning sickness that had first alerted her to the possibility of pregnancy was mercifully absent as she dressed, choosing a flowing silk dress that would soon be too tight to wear. Her hand lingered briefly over her still flat stomach, imagining the life growing within. In her studio, she had already begun sketching ideas for the nursery, each drawing filled with the joy and anticipation of impending motherhood. Kara had left early for a board meeting, kissing her goodbye with his usual tenderness. "I'll see you tonight, my love," he had said, unaware that this ordinary morning would be the last time he would see his wife whole and unbroken. Megan spent the morning in her studio, working on a new series of paintings that seemed to flow from her brush with unusual vibrancy. Later, art critics would note how these last works completed before the accident captured an almost transcendent joy, as if her unspoken happiness had somehow translated itself onto canvas. The accident itself happened with the cruel suddenness that characterizes all life-changing moments. Megan was driving to her favorite boutique to look for the perfect outfit for that evening's dinner. The sun was bright, the desert air clear, her heart full of dreams and possibilities. She was thinking about names, about tiny fingers and toes, about Kara's smile when he would hear the news. She never saw the truck that ran the red light. The impact came from the passenger side, sending her car spinning across the intersection like a toy. Time seemed to slow as the world turned sideways, then upside down, then sideways again. The sound of crushing metal and breaking glass filled her ears, drowning out the music that had been playing on the radio, a lullaby she had hoped to sing to their child. The first responders found her unconscious, her hand still protectively curved over her abdomen even in unconsciousness. The silk dress was stained with blood, the car a twisted wreck of metal and shattered dreams. They worked quickly, efficiently, unaware that they were trying to save not just one life, but two. Kara was in the middle of his presentation when the call came. Later, he wouldn't remember dropping his phone, wouldn't remember running from the boardroom, wouldn't remember the drive to the hospital. His entire world had condensed to a single point: Megan, their love, their future, all hanging by the fragile thread of emergency surgery. The hospital waiting room became his purgatory. Hours stretched like years as surgeons worked to save his wife. Friends and family arrived, offering comfort he couldn't feel, support he couldn't acknowledge. His entire being was focused on the double doors leading to the operating theatre, willing them to open with good news. When Dr. Sarah Chen finally emerged, her face held the gravity of someone about to change lives forever. The surgery had been successful in saving Megan's life, but the internal damage was catastrophic. The words, "She'll never be able to carry a child," fell like stones in the quiet room, each one striking Kara's heart with devastating force. But it was the second part of the news that nearly broke him. She had been pregnant. Their first child, the one she had planned to tell him about over dinner that very evening, was lost in the twisted metal and broken dreams of the accident. The joy she had carried secretly in her heart that morning was now another casualty of fate's cruel intervention. For 3 days, Megan remained unconscious, her body fighting to heal as Kara maintained his vigil by her bedside. He talked to her constantly, telling her about their future, about his love, about anything except the 2 pieces of news he would have to share when she woke up. The hospital staff moved quietly around him, their hearts heavy with the weight of what was to come. When Megan finally opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Kara's face, lined with worry and sleepless nights. For a brief moment, before memory returned, she smiled, the same smile that had captured his heart all those years ago. Then awareness crept in, bringing with it the pain of her injuries and the haunting question about the life she had carried within her. The moment she asked about the baby was etched into Kara's memory forever. The hope in her eyes, quickly followed by devastation as he shook his head, unable to speak through his tears. Her scream of grief echoed through the hospital corridors, a sound of such pure anguish that nurses 3 floors away paused in their duties, their own eyes filling with tears. The days that followed were a blur of medical procedures, pain management, and crushing grief. Megan retreated into herself, her artist's soul seeking refuge in a world of shadows where the pain couldn't reach. Kara stayed by her side, his love manifesting in constant, quiet support. He learned to read the different qualities of her silence, to anticipate her needs before she could voice them, to be the strength she needed while dealing with his own grief. The news about her inability to ever carry another child came later, when her body had begun to heal, but her heart was still raw. Dr. Chen explained the extent of the internal damage, her professional demeanor softening with genuine sympathy as she outlined what this meant for their future. Megan listened in silence, her hand clutching Kara's with desperate strength. That night, in the quiet of her hospital room, Megan finally broke down completely. "I'm sorry," she whispered over and over, as if the accident had been her fault, as if she had somehow failed him by losing their child and the possibility of future children. Kara held her as she sobbed, his own tears falling silently into her hair. "You are all I need," he told her fiercely. "Children or no children, you are my entire world." His words were a lifeline in her sea of grief, a promise that their love was stronger than any tragedy. The physical recovery was slow, marked by small victories and setbacks. Kara transformed their home into a haven of healing, incorporating technology and comfort in ways that only his brilliant mind could conceive. But the emotional healing would prove to be a longer journey, one that would test their love in ways they never imagined. Yet even in those darkest moments, when grief threatened to overwhelm them, their love remained a constant source of light. It would take time for them to learn new ways of dreaming, new ways of building a future different from the one they had planned. But together they would discover that love's greatest test often reveals its greatest strength. Little did they know that fate, having dealt them this cruel blow, was not finished with their story. In the years to come, their journey would take unexpected turns, leading them to a different kind of joy, a different way of creating family, a different path to fulfillment. But for now, in that hospital room, they held each other and faced their new reality the only way they knew how, together, with love as their guide and strength. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Love's True Test, Beyond Loss and Pain. The sterile hospital walls seemed to close in around Megan as consciousness slowly returned, the harsh fluorescent lights piercing through her fluttering eyelids. The steady beeping of monitors provided a cruel rhythm to the moment that would forever divide her life into before and after. Kara sat beside her, his usually impeccable appearance disheveled from days of keeping vigil. His hands, which had built technological empires, trembled as they held hers. Dr. Sarah Chen delivered the news with gentle professionalism, each word falling like heavy stones in still water. The accident had caused irreversible damage. Megan would never be able to carry a child. The pregnancy she had been rushing to announce was gone, along with all future hopes of motherhood. The words echoed in the sterile room, bouncing off the walls and crashing back into her heart with devastating force. The first days passed in a blur of tears and medication. Megan's artistic soul, usually so full of color and life, retreated into a world of grays and shadows. Her hospital room, despite Kara's efforts to fill it with her favorite flowers, felt like a mausoleum for dreams that would never be realized. The pain medications could dull the physical agony, but nothing could numb the ache in her heart. It was in these darkest moments that Kara's love showed its true depth. He postponed major business deals, delegated his responsibilities, and devoted himself entirely to Megan's recovery. His tech team worked remotely, transforming their home into a rehabilitation paradise while she was still in the hospital. Every morning, he arrived with a new story, a new reason to smile, a new way to show her that their love was bigger than any loss. The journey home was both an ending and a beginning. Megan found their house transformed, her art studio converted into a sanctuary of healing. The walls were fitted with screens that could display any environment she desired, from peaceful forests to serene beaches. A custom-designed therapy pool allowed her to rebuild her strength while creating water art, a new medium that would later become her signature style. Recovery wasn't linear. There were days when the sight of a pregnant woman in the grocery store would send Megan spiraling into despair. Kara learned to anticipate these triggers, creating protective bubbles around her without being obvious about it. He found ways to redirect their regular walking routes to avoid playgrounds, to time their shopping when young families were least likely to be out. Their love deepened in unexpected ways. Kara would leave little surprises around the house, a new paintbrush, a rare pigment, a sketch he had attempted with his engineer's precision that never failed to make her laugh. Each gesture was a thread in the tapestry of healing he was weaving around her. Megan's art began to evolve, taking on new depths of emotion. Her paintings, once filled with light and joy, now explored the full spectrum of human experience. Critics would later say that this period produced her most powerful works. Kara built her a new studio, equipped with technology that allowed her to create immersive art installations that would later tour galleries worldwide. They became surrogate parents to their community in unexpected ways. Kara established a foundation supporting young artists, while Megan began mentoring children in art therapy. Their home became a haven for creative souls, filled with the laughter and energy of people drawn to their unique bond and generous spirits. In the backyard of their estate, Kara created what he called the Garden of Dreams. It was a stunning blend of natural beauty and technological innovation, where holographic butterflies danced among real flowers and musical notes played when certain plants were touched. This became their special place, where they could share their hopes and fears under the desert stars. Their love matured like fine wine, gaining depth and complexity from the challenges they faced. Kara learned to read Megan's moods in the colors she chose for her paintings, while she learned to understand his love in the careful way he continued to innovate their home to bring her joy. Their connection transcended the physical, becoming something that defied conventional description. Years passed, and their love story became legendary in Arizona society, not for its glamour or wealth, but for its authenticity and resilience. Young couples would look to them as an example of true partnership, of love that could weather any storm. Their annual vow renewal ceremonies became celebrations not just of their marriage, but of love's power to heal and transform. They discovered new ways to parent, through their foundation, through mentoring, through creating spaces where children could explore art and technology. Their inability to have biological children led them to touch countless young lives in ways they never could have imagined. Their love multiplied and spread, touching lives far beyond their immediate circle. Each morning they chose each other anew. Kara would bring Megan coffee in her studio, pausing to watch her work with pride and wonder. She would leave him notes in binary code, having learned it just to make him smile. Their love was no longer just about grand gestures or passionate declarations. It was about the quiet choice to face each day together, to find beauty in their shared journey. Their story became a beacon of hope for others facing similar struggles. Megan began speaking at support groups, sharing how love had carried her through the darkest times. Kara's technological innovations in rehabilitation and therapy helped countless others recover from trauma. Together, They proved that sometimes life's greatest tragedies can lead to unexpected blessings. Time passed, and their love continued to evolve. The pain of their loss never completely disappeared, but it transformed into something different, a tender spot that reminded them of their strength, their resilience, their capacity to love, despite everything. They created new traditions, new ways of celebrating life and love, new methods of turning pain into purpose. As their 10th wedding anniversary approached, neither could have imagined that fate was preparing to test their love in new ways. The arrival of a young woman named Oprah Winfrey would soon add another chapter to their story, but for now, they had each other, and that was enough. Their love had proven itself against the crucible of loss, emerging stronger and more pure than ever before. The desert winds carried their story across Arizona, inspiring others with its testament to the power of unconditional love. In their garden, under the stars that had witnessed their journey, Megan and Cara continued to write their love story, not in the pages of memory, but in the living moments of each day. Their love had become a force of nature, as steady as the desert sun and as deep as the night sky above Arizona. Chapter 7. Enter Oprah Winfrey. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the crowded university campus as Oprah Winfrey made her way through the throng of students. At 21, she carried herself with a quiet dignity that belied her circumstances. Her recent arrival from Africa had brought her to this prestigious institution on a partial scholarship, her dreams as vast as the desert sky above her. Yet behind her carefully maintained composure lay a burden that grew heavier with each passing day. In her small apartment off campus, Oprah would often sit by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that reminded her of home. Her laptop displayed her mother's latest medical bills, a staggering $25,000 that seemed to mock her meager savings. The partial scholarship covered her tuition, but the mounting healthcare costs back home threatened to shatter everything she had worked for. Each ping of her phone brought fresh anxiety, another message about her mother's deteriorating condition, another reminder of the impossible choice between her education and her family's needs. Each morning, Oprah balanced her studies with various part-time jobs. Her professors praised her brilliant mind, particularly in biochemistry, unaware that their star student spent her evenings serving drinks at high society parties. Her friends marveled at her composure, never guessing that she cried herself to sleep most nights, torn between her ambitions and her family's needs. She had mastered the art of wearing a brave face, of smiling through exhaustion, of keeping her dreams alive one day at a time. The elite lounge at the Grand Phoenix Hotel buzzed with the usual weekend crowd of Arizona's wealthy and powerful. Oprah moved efficiently between tables, her tray balanced with practiced precision. She had learned to make herself nearly invisible to the patrons, a skill that helped her earn better tips. But on this particular night, invisibility would prove impossible. It happened in an instant, a moment that would alter the course of multiple lives. The tray of crystal glasses slipped, creating a symphony of shattering glass that seemed to freeze time itself. The manager's angry voice cut through the sudden silence, his words sharp and humiliating. Oprah felt her carefully constructed facade crumbling as tears threatened to fall. In that moment of vulnerability, fate intervened in the form of Megan Schmidt. Megan's hand on her shoulder came like a touch of grace. The well-known socialite's presence silenced the manager instantly, but it was the genuine concern in her eyes that broke through Oprah's defenses. In the private alcove where Megan led her, Oprah found herself sharing her story. Her mother's illness, the mounting bills, her desperate struggle to maintain her scholarship while earning enough to help her family. Megan listened with an intensity that spoke of more than mere sympathy. The invitation to the Schmidt estate came the next day. Oprah assumed it was for a job interview, perhaps as a house helper or private server. The mansion's grandeur intimidated her, but Megan's warm welcome put her at ease. What followed was a conversation that would challenge everything Oprah thought she knew about right and wrong, about love and sacrifice. Megan's words seemed surreal as she explained her inability to bear children and her desperate desire for a family. The proposal was unprecedented, not surrogacy, but a natural conception with her husband. The offered sum of $30,000 would more than cover her mother's medical expenses. The clinical way Megan presented it almost masked the emotional weight of what she was asking. For 2 weeks, Oprah wrestled with the decision. Her mother's condition was deteriorating, and traditional banks had already denied her loan applications. Yet the moral implications of what was being proposed kept her awake at night. She sought guidance from her heart, from her faith, from the memory of her father, who had always taught her to maintain her dignity. In the end, it was her mother's latest medical report that tipped the scales. The contract was simple, the terms clear. She would travel to Switzerland with Kara Schmidt, away from prying eyes and gossiping tongues. The weeks leading up to the trip were a blur of preparations. Megan handled everything with meticulous care: flight arrangements, accommodations, medical checks. Her efficiency almost masked the pain in her eyes whenever certain details were discussed. Despite the unusual circumstances, Oprah found herself drawn to Megan's gentle spirit. They shared long conversations about art, dreams, and the weight of family expectations. In another life, they might have been friends without the shadow of their arrangement between them. The morning of departure brought a strange mixture of emotions. Megan's goodbye to Kara at the private airstrip seemed charged with unspoken words. Oprah watched their embrace, feeling like an intruder in an intimate moment. The private jet carried them away from the Arizona desert, toward the Swiss Alps, and an uncertain future. Kara maintained a professional distance, burying himself in work during the flight. Oprah watched the clouds pass beneath them, wondering if the price of her mother's life would be her own peace of mind. In their luxury suite in Switzerland, reality began to sink in. Separate rooms maintained the illusion of propriety, but Oprah felt the weight of her role, the other woman, albeit with permission. The crisp mountain air and stunning views did little to calm her troubled spirit. Neither she nor Kara could have predicted how their time in Switzerland would transform them both. The artificial nature of their arrangement began to crack under the weight of genuine conversations and shared moments of vulnerability. When the pregnancy test showed positive, it wasn't just one life that began growing. It was complications, emotions, and attachments that none of them had fully anticipated. The discovery of twins only added to the complexity of their situation. As her body changed, a new life grew within her. Oprah's perspective began to shift. The clinical arrangement started feeling increasingly personal. The babies moving inside her were no longer just a means to an end. They were becoming part of her. Unknown to both Oprah and Kara, back in Arizona, Megan was fighting her own battle. Her secret struggle with terminal cancer was entering its final stages, even as new life was being created thousands of miles away. What had begun as a business transaction had evolved into something far more complicated. The lines between duty and desire, between right and wrong, between love and obligation, began to blur. As the Swiss winter turned to spring, and spring promised summer, the approaching birth brought with it questions none of them were prepared to answer. The simple arrangement had grown into a complex tapestry of emotions, responsibilities, and unexpected attachments that would test them all in ways they never imagined. In the quiet moments between medical checkups and prenatal care, Oprah would stand on their suite's balcony, looking out over the alpine landscape, wondering how a journey that began with a broken heart and shattered glasses could end with something so profound and life-changing. Chapter 8. A difficult decision. Hearts in turmoil. dawn broke over the Swiss Alps, painting the snow-capped peaks in shades of rose and gold. But inside the luxurious suite of the Grand Hotel Bellevue, a storm of emotions raged. Oprah stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, her hands resting protectively over her growing belly, tears streaming down her face as she wrestled with the most difficult decision of her life. The twins within her kicked softly, as if sensing their mother's distress. The previous night's conversation with her mother in Africa had changed everything. The doctors were optimistic. The treatment was working. The money Oprah had sent home had quite literally saved her mother's life. But now, as she felt the movement of the babies beneath her hands, she realized that the price of that miracle might be more than she could bear to pay. Kara watched her from across the room, his own heart torn between duty and the unexpected feelings that had developed during their 3 months in Switzerland. What had begun as a clinical arrangement had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated. He had watched Oprah sing to the babies in her native tongue, had seen her face light up at each ultrasound, had witnessed the fierce love growing in her eyes with each passing day. "I can't do it," Oprah whispered, her voice breaking the heavy silence. "I thought I could. I thought it was just a transaction, just 9 months, just—" Her voice cracked as fresh tears fell. "But they're mine. They're part of me. Every kick, every movement, every heartbeat. They're my children." Kara stepped forward, then stopped, maintaining the careful distance they had established. But his own eyes betrayed the conflict raging within him. He had fallen in love, not with Oprah, but with the idea of fatherhood, with the twins she carried, with the family they could be. Yet his wedding ring felt heavy on his finger, a constant reminder of Megan waiting at home, of promises made, and a love that had weathered the storm of infertility. Their time in Switzerland had been a strange dance of propriety and intimacy. They took meals together, attended doctor's appointments, shared the joy of each milestone in the pregnancy. But they never crossed the invisible line that separated their arrangement from something more personal. Each night, they retreated to their separate rooms, each haunted by the growing weight of their choices. The hotel suite had become a bubble, sheltering them from the outside world and its judgments. Here, they could pretend that their situation was normal, that the complications of their arrangement didn't exist, but reality had a way of intruding, like the daily video calls from Megan, her face glowing with excitement about the nursery she was preparing back home. "I dream about them," Oprah continued, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. "Not just while I'm sleeping, but during the day too. I imagine their first steps, their first words, their first day of school. In every dream, they're with me. How can I give them away? How can any mother give away her children?" The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Kara thought of Megan, of her years of suffering after the accident, of her desperate desire for motherhood. He thought of the way her eyes lit up when they discussed the twins, the love she already felt for children she had never met. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him like a physical force. Outside, snow began to fall, each flake a crystalline tear matching those on Oprah's cheeks. The pristine whiteness seemed to mock the complexity of their situation, the shades of grey that colored every decision, every emotion, every possibility. "My mother," Oprah said suddenly, turning to face Kara, "she told me last night that she's getting better. The treatment is working. She said ... A sob caught in her throat. "She said she would rather die than have me live with the pain of giving away my children. She said no amount of money is worth the peace of my soul this would cost." Kara sank into a chair, his head in his hands. The contract they had all signed now seemed like a cruel joke. How could anyone put a price on this? How could they have thought they could regulate emotions, could control the natural bonds between mother and child? The twins chose that moment to become particularly active, and Oprah gasped, her hands moving to different spots on her belly. Without thinking, Kara crossed the room, his hand reaching out before he caught himself. Oprah saw his hesitation and, in a moment of raw honesty, took his hand and placed it where the babies were kicking. The contact broke something in both of them. Tears spilled from Kara's eyes as he felt his children moving beneath his touch. In that moment, the complexity of their situation crashed over them like a tidal wave. These were his children too, created not in love, but growing in it, nurtured by a woman who had entered their lives as a stranger but would forever be connected to them in the most profound way. "What do we do?" Oprah whispered, her voice small against the vastness of their dilemma. "How do we make this right?" The question echoed in the room, unanswerable in its enormity. Kara thought of Megan again, of her excitement, her plans, her dreams. He thought of the nursery she was preparing, of the love she had to give, but he also thought of Oprah, of her strength, her dignity, her growing maternal bond with the twins. Days passed in a haze of tears and tension. Oprah retreated into herself, spending hours sitting in the nursery that had been prepared in their suite, running her hands over tiny clothes and imagining the babies who would wear them. Kara buried himself in work during the day, but at night he would sit in his room, looking at ultrasound pictures and wondering how something that had seemed so straightforward had become so impossibly complicated. Their meals together became silent affairs, the weight of unspoken words making it difficult to swallow. The normally bustling hotel suite felt like a mausoleum, housing the death of their simple arrangement and the birth of something far more complex and painful. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows across their shared living space, Oprah finally broke their unspoken agreement not to discuss the future. "They deserve to be loved," she said softly, her hands protectively cradling her belly. "They deserve to have everything, every opportunity, every advantage. With you and Megan, they would have that. With me—" Her voice broke. "With me, they would have love. But what else could I give them?" Kara looked at her, seeing not the young student they had contracted with, but a mother grappling with an impossible choice. "Love is everything," he said quietly. "It's what Megan and I have been trying to create, what we've been searching for. These babies would be loved either way. That's the tragedy and the blessing of this situation." As if responding to their parents' voices, the twins began to move again. Oprah closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks as she memorized the sensation, knowing that whatever decision she made, these moments were precious and fleeting. The next morning, Oprah woke early and made her way to the hotel's private garden. The dawn light was just beginning to touch the mountains as she sat on a bench, her hand absently rubbing her growing belly. The peace of the morning stood in stark contrast to the turmoil in her heart. When Kara found her there an hour later, her face was wet with tears, but somehow calmer, more resolved. She looked up at him, her eyes clear despite the tears. "I need to talk to Megan," she said quietly. "Not through a video call, not through you. I need to see her, to talk to her face to face. These babies—" She took a deep breath. "These babies deserve to have all of their parents figure out what's best for them. Together." Kara nodded, understanding the wisdom in her words. Within hours, arrangements were made for Megan to fly to Switzerland. As they waited for her arrival, both Kara and Oprah knew that whatever decision was made, nothing would ever be simple again. The lives of 3 adults and 2 unborn children had become inextricably intertwined, bound together by love, obligation, and the impossible choices that lay ahead of them. The snow continued to fall outside their window, each flake a possibility, a choice, a future yet to be determined. Inside, 2 hearts beat in fear and hope, while 2 tiny hearts beat between them, unaware of the storm of love and pain that surrounded their impending arrival. 8 months. Chapter 9. Hidden Battles, The Weight of Silence. The morning light filtered through the gauzy curtains of Megan's private study in the Arizona mansion, casting soft shadows on her pale face as she read the latest medical report. 8 months of keeping her terminal diagnosis secret had taken their toll. Her once vibrant green eyes were shadowed with fatigue, her artist's hands trembling slightly as she placed the papers back in their envelope. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. The words seemed to mock her from the doctor's careful handwriting. Dr. Matthews had warned her that keeping this from Kara was inadvisable, but Megan knew her husband. The moment he learned of her condition, he would abandon everything, the Switzerland arrangement, the chance for children, their future, to be by her side. She couldn't let that happen, not when they were so close to having the family they had always dreamed of. The daily video calls with Kara had become an exquisite form of torture. Each conversation required her to maintain a facade of excitement and health while the cancer ravaged her body. She had become an expert at applying makeup to hide her pallor, at positioning the camera to conceal her weight loss, at timing her calls for when the painkillers were at their most effective. In her art studio, canvases stood as silent witnesses to her struggle. Her latest works had taken on a different character, darker, more intense, filled with hidden messages she couldn't speak aloud. Critics praised the evolution of her style, unaware that each painting was a letter to her unborn children, a piece of herself she was leaving behind. The house staff had been sworn to secrecy, their loyalty to Megan outweighing their discomfort with the deception. Maria, their longtime housekeeper, would often find Megan doubled over in pain in the early morning hours, stubborn tears streaming down her face as she refused to let the agony overcome her. Together, they had developed a careful routine, treatments scheduled during Kara's video call times, recovery periods, masters, artistic retreats, medication schedules hidden behind social engagements. Despite her condition, Megan threw herself into preparing for the twins' arrival. The nursery became her sanctuary, each detail personally chosen and arranged. She would spend hours in the room, rocking in the hand-carved chair, imagining the lives that would unfold within these walls. The irony of creating a space she might never see used tore at her heart, but she persevered, determined to leave this final gift for her family. Her oncologist had been clear. Even with aggressive treatment, her prognosis was measured in months, not years. The cancer had spread too far, too fast. Yet Megan approached each day with fierce determination, documenting everything in journals, her hopes for the twins, advice for Kara, memories of their love story. Late at night, when pain kept her awake, she would write letters to her unborn children, telling them about their father's strength, about the love that had brought them into being, about the mother who had carried them, and about her own deep love that would transcend even death. The hardest part was maintaining her public appearances. Arizona society watched the Schmidt-Swister saga with keen interest, and Megan played her role perfectly. She attended charity functions, hosted dinner parties, and continued her work with various foundations. Each public appearance required more energy, more makeup, more careful orchestration to hide her declining health. In quiet moments, doubt would creep in. Was she being selfish, keeping this from Kara? Was it fair to leave him with such a burden, twins to raise, a legacy to explain, a grief he hadn't been prepared for? But then she would think of Oprah, carrying their precious children, of Kara's dream of fatherhood, and her resolve would strengthen. Her time was limited, but their future was not. The doctors had suggested hospice care, but Megan refused. She would remain in their home, surrounded by the life she and Kara had built together until the very end. She had arranged everything, legal documents transferring her art collection to charitable foundations, letters to be delivered after her passing, and most importantly, her final wishes for Kara and Oprah. As she sat in her studio one evening, watching the desert sunset paint the sky in the same colors that had graced their wedding day, Megan began to write her final letter to Kara. The words flowed from her heart, each one carrying the weight of unspoken truths and enduring love. She wrote about their journey together, about the joy he had brought to her life, about her dreams for his future with their children, and then she wrote about Oprah, the young woman who had entered their lives like an answer to a prayer. Megan had seen something in Oprah that went beyond their arrangement, a strength and grace that matched Kara's own. In her final gift of love, she would give them both permission to find happiness together, to create the family their children deserved. The pain was getting worse, harder to hide. Each video call became a masterclass in acting, every smile a testament to her determination to protect those she loved from the truth, until the last possible moment. She knew time was running out, could feel it in the increasing weakness of her body, in the growing urgency of her doctor's concerned looks. Yet even as her physical strength waned, Megan's spirit remained undiminished. She channeled her remaining energy into finishing the nursery, into completing her letters, into ensuring that every detail of her plan was perfect. She would not leave chaos in her wake. Instead, she would leave a path forward for those she loved most. In her final days, as she felt her grip on life beginning to slip, Megan found a strange peace in her decisions. She had lived a life full of love, had known the kind of partnership most people only dreamed of, and now she would ensure that her legacy lived on in the family she had helped create. The last video call she had with Kara and Oprah, watching them together in Switzerland, had confirmed everything she had hoped for. She could see the potential there, not just for co-parenting, but for a genuine family. Her children would have not just one mother's love, but two, and a father whose capacity for love had no bounds. As she sealed her final letter, Megan looked out over the desert landscape she had grown to love. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple, much like the day she had first met Kara. A lifetime of love had passed between then and now, and though her time was ending, the love story she had helped write would continue in ways she had carefully orchestrated. Tomorrow, she would wake up and continue her charade, protecting those she loved until the very end. But tonight, alone in her studio surrounded by the art that had been her voice when words failed, Megan Schmidt allowed herself to feel everything. The pain of leaving, the joy of knowing her children would be loved, the peace of knowing she had lived her life fully and loved completely. The desert wind whispered through the open window, carrying with it the scent of night-blooming jasmine. Megan closed her eyes, a small smile playing on her lips. She had fought her battle in silence, carried her burden alone, but she had done so with love as her guide and purpose as her strength. In the end, that was all that mattered. Chapter 10. The Final Letter, A Love Beyond. The bedroom lay in shadow as Kara walked through the door of their Arizona mansion, his heart light with the anticipation of sharing the news with Megan. The twins were healthy, growing strong within Oprah, and he couldn't wait to tell his wife about their latest ultrasound. The house was unusually quiet, the silence heavy with an unseen weight that he would soon understand. His footsteps echoed through the empty hallways as he called out for Megan. No response came. A strange feeling began to creep into his chest as he noticed the stillness. Not the peaceful quiet of a sleeping house, but the hollow silence of absence. On their bed lay a cream-colored envelope, his name written in Megan's distinctive artistic hand. With trembling fingers, he opened the letter, and his world shattered. My dearest Kara, by the time you read these words, I will have joined the stars we used to count together on our midnight walks. I'm sorry, my love, for keeping this from you, but I couldn't bear to see our dreams die alongside me. The cancer gave me no choice about leaving you, but it did give me time to ensure that you would never walk alone. 8 months ago, when the doctors told me I had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, I made a choice. I chose to give you the greatest gift I could. Not just the children we dreamed of, but a future filled with love and family. Every decision since then, every moment of silence, every hidden tear was born from my love for you and our unborn children. I know you're angry right now. I know you're hurt that I didn't tell you, that I didn't give you the chance to be there for me through this battle. But my darling, you've been there for me every day since we were children. You've given me a lifetime of love that most people only dream of. It was my turn to be strong for you, to ensure that our love story didn't end with my last breath. Do you remember the day we met? That blue chair you saved for me in 2nd grade? I've spent these last months thinking about all the ways you've saved spaces in your life for me, all the ways you've made room for our love to grow. Now I'm asking you to save space for something new, a different kind of love, a different kind of family, but one that carries the essence of what we built together. Oprah came into our lives like an answer to a prayer I hadn't dared to speak. I've watched her through our video calls, seen the way she sings to our babies, noticed how her eyes light up when she talks about their future. She has the same capacity for love that drew me to you all those years ago. The same strength, the same gentle spirit, the same ability to see beauty in unexpected places. I'm not asking you to forget me, my love. I'm asking you to honor what we had by being brave enough to love again. Those precious babies need both their father's strength and their mother's love. Not just my memory, but a living, breathing love that can guide them through life's challenges. In my studio, you'll find a collection of paintings I've created over these past months. They're my legacy for our children. Each one tells a story, holds a piece of my heart, carries a message I won't be able to tell them in person. Share these with them as they grow. Let them know that their other mother loved them before she ever met them, that she poured her last months of life into creating beauty for their future. I've also left letters for each of them, to be opened on their important birthdays. Guide them through these moments, Cara. Help them understand that love doesn't always follow the paths we expect, that sometimes the most beautiful stories are written in the spaces between heartbeats, in the quiet moments between grief and joy. To Oprah, I leave my blessing and my gratitude. In her I see the mother our children deserve, strong enough to carry them through hardship, gentle enough to nurture their dreams, brave enough to love them despite the complicated circumstances of their beginning. Tell her that she has my heart's permission to love you, to love our children, to create the family that these precious babies deserve. My dearest love, I know this burden I've placed on you is heavy. I know the coming days will be filled with grief and anger and questions I can no longer answer. But remember this. Our love was never meant to be contained within the boundaries of a single lifetime. It lives on in the children we created, in the family you'll build, in every sunset that paints the desert sky in the colors of our memories. Look for me in the quiet moments, in the laughter of our children, in the desert flowers that bloom against all odds. I'll be there, my love, in every moment of joy you share with our babies, in every tear you shed when missing me becomes too heavy, in every new beginning you're brave enough to embrace. The greatest gift you can give me now is to live fully, to love deeply, to create the family our children deserve. Let Oprah in, not just as the mother of our children, but as the partner who can help you carry this legacy forward. She has a strength that matches your own, a love that equals the task ahead. I've arranged everything, the legal documents, the necessary explanations, the path forward. You'll find it all in my study, but the most important things can't be put on paper. The love we shared, the dreams we built, the future I see for you and our children. Remember me with joy, my darling. Remember our love with pride. But don't let my memory become a wall between you and happiness. Our children deserve to grow up in a home filled with laughter, with present love, with the kind of joy that only comes from hearts brave enough to begin again. I love you, Kara Schmidt. I have loved you since that first day in second grade, through every triumph and challenge, through every joy and sorrow, and I will love you beyond this life, beyond this moment of goodbye, beyond the boundaries of what we thought was possible. Be happy, my love, be brave, be the father our children deserve, and when the time is right, be open to the love that waits to heal your heart. Forever yours, Megan P.S., the blue chair from our classroom. I had it restored. It's in the nursery, waiting for you to read stories to our children. Let it be a reminder that the best love stories sometimes start with something as simple as saving a space for someone in your life. Kara's legs gave out as he finished reading, and he slid to the floor, the letter clutched to his chest. Tears flowed freely as the weight of Megan's sacrifice crashed over him. The silence of the house now held a different meaning. Not just absence, but the echo of a love so deep it had orchestrated its own continuation. Outside, the desert sun began to set, painting the sky in the same colors that had graced their wedding day. In the nursery, the blue chair waited, a bridge between past and future, between grief and hope, between one love story and the next. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, Megan's love continued to write its story in the lives she left behind. Chapter 11. Dreams and Reality. The master bedroom had become both sanctuary and prison for Kara in the 7 days since reading Megan's letter. The heavy curtains remained drawn, creating a perpetual twilight that matched his grief. Every surface held memories that seemed to breathe with their own life. Her silver hairbrush still contained strands of honey-colored hair. Her favorite cashmere sweater draped over the chaise lounge still held her shape. Her sketchbook lay open on the bedside table, showing her last unfinished drawing, a study of desert wildflowers she'd never complete. The physical manifestations of his grief were evident in every aspect of his being. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, his usually immaculate appearance replaced by several days' worth of stubble. He hadn't eaten properly since reading the letter, surviving on the tea and toast that Maria, their housekeeper, insisted on leaving outside his door. His body felt heavy, as if gravity itself had intensified, making every movement an effort against an invisible weight. The room itself seemed to breathe with memories. In the corner, her vanity still displayed the careful arrangement of perfume bottles that caught the rare rays of light that slipped through the curtains, creating prisms that danced across the walls. Her side of the closet remained untouched, her clothes arranged by color in the meticulous way she'd always kept them. The scent of her favorite jasmine perfume lingered in the air, growing fainter with each passing day, prompting Kara to try to hold his breath to preserve it. Sleep came in fitful bursts, more exhaustion than rest. Each time he closed his eyes, memories played like old films against his eyelids. Megan's laugh during their first date when desert rain caught them by surprise, the way she bit her lower lip when concentrating on a painting, how she would absent-mindedly hum while reading. The dreams, when they came, were vivid tapestries of their life together, each one ending with the cruel awakening to a world without her. But on the 7th night, something changed. The air in the room felt different, charged with an energy that made the hair on his arms stand up. The dream began differently this time. Instead of fragmented memories, Kara found himself in Megan's art studio, but it was unlike he'd ever seen it. Moonlight streamed through the windows with an otherworldly intensity, creating pools of silver light that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. The air shimmered with suspended paint particles that looked like stardust, and the usual scents of oil paint and turpentine were replaced by the sweet fragrance of desert flowers after rain. Her paintings on the walls seemed alive, their colors more vibrant than physically possible. He could see movement within them, the flutter of painted butterflies' wings, the swaying of captured desert grass, the shifting of painted clouds. The room itself seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting with a gentle rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Then she appeared, not fading in like a ghost, but simply being there, as if she had always been there and he had only just noticed. Megan stood before him as she had been in her prime. Vibrant, beautiful, her green eyes containing entire universes. She wore the white dress from their first anniversary, the one she had later painted herself in, decorated now with swirling patterns that moved and changed like living things. Paint stained her fingers in rainbow hues, and her honey-colored hair caught the moonlight like a halo. "My love," she said, her voice carrying notes of wind chimes and desert storms. "You've been hiding." The sound of her voice broke something in him. Kara fell to his knees, his body racked with sobs that he had been holding back for days. The floor beneath him felt solid, yet somehow responsive, sending pulses of warmth through his body. Megan knelt beside him, and her touch was impossibly real, warm, solid, alive. She smelled of jasmine and paint and sunshine, exactly as she had in life. "Grief is not a room to live in, my darling," she whispered, running her fingers through his hair. "It's a door to walk through." As she helped him to his feet, the studio began to change around them. The walls became transparent, revealing the desert night beyond, stars wheeling overhead in impossible patterns. 2 stars burned brighter than the rest, pulsing with a rhythm that reminded Kara of heartbeats. "Our babies," Megan said, pointing to the stars. "They're coming, Kara, and they'll need more than a father lost in shadows." She led him to her easel, where a blank canvas stood. As they watched, images began to appear, painting themselves in living color, their twins taking their first steps in the garden, their first words echoing through the halls of their home, bedtime stories read from the blue chair, birthday celebrations filled with laughter and love. Each scene included Oprah, her presence not replacing Megan, but adding to the family's tapestry, bringing her own colors to their story. "This is what I see," Megan said, her voice full of love and certainty. "This is why I made my choices. Our love story isn't ending, Kara. It's expanding, growing, making room for more love, more joy, more life." She guided him to the window, where the desert stretched endlessly under the starlit sky. "Look," she said, pointing to where the first hints of dawn touched the horizon. "Every sunrise is a new canvas. Every day is a chance to add more color to our children's lives." Kara felt his resistance crumbling. "But how can I do this without you? How can I be what they need?" Megan's laugh was like silver bells in the desert wind. "Oh, my love, you're not doing it without me. I'm in every sunset you'll watch with them, every star you'll teach them to name, every story you'll tell them about us. I'm in the art on these walls, in the garden we planted, in the love that created them." She led him to the corner where the blue chair sat, restored to its original glory, but somehow more. In the dreamlight, he could see layers of memory embedded in its wood. Their first meeting in 2nd grade, years of shared lunches, quiet conversations, and now future possibilities. "Remember how it began?" she asked, running her hand along the chair's arm. "You saved a space for me. Now it's time to save space for something new, while keeping our love safe in your heart." As she began to fade, Megan pressed something into his hand, a paintbrush that seemed made of starlight. "Paint your future bright, my love. Fill it with colors I never got to see, with love I never got to give, with joy I always wanted for you." Her final words echoed through the studio as she disappeared. "I love you, Kara Schmidt. Now go. Our babies are waiting." Kara awoke with tears on his face but a lightness in his chest that hadn't been there before. The room was filled with early morning light. He had forgotten to close the curtains fully the night before. A shaft of sunlight fell directly on Megan's favorite crystal paperweight, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the walls like the paint particles in his dream. For the first time in 7 days, he stood up. His body protested, weak from lack of food and movement. His reflection in the bathroom mirror shocked him. Hollow cheeks, unkempt beard, dark circles under his eyes. But in those eyes, there was something new, a spark of life that hadn't been there the night before. He showered, each movement deliberate and purposeful. As the water washed away the physical traces of his grief, he could almost feel Megan's presence, encouraging him, supporting him. He shaved, dressed in fresh clothes, and opened the curtains fully, letting the Arizona morning flood the room. The house seemed different as he walked through it, as if it too was awakening from a deep sleep. He made his way to Megan's studio, his heart pounding as he approached the door. The handle felt warm under his touch, almost alive. The studio was exactly as she had left it, but now he saw it through new eyes. Her presence was everywhere. In the half-finished paintings, in the carefully arranged tools, in the way the morning light fell across her workbench. And there, in the corner, stood the blue chair, restored and waiting, just as she had written in her letter and shown him in his dream. As he stood absorbing the space, his phone buzzed in his pocket. The message was from Switzerland. Oprah had gone into labor. The twins were coming. Moving with newfound purpose, Kara began to prepare. He called the pilot to ready the private jet, then went to the nursery Megan had prepared. Everything was perfect, waiting for the baby's arrival. He ran his hands over the tiny clothes she had chosen, each item selected with love and care. In his office, he found the file of documents she had prepared, legal papers, instructions, letters for the future. Even in her final months, she had thought of everything, paving the way for what was to come. As he packed a small bag for Switzerland, Kara felt a warm breeze brush past him, carrying the faintest scent of jasmine. On impulse, he returned to Megan's studio and picked up her favorite paintbrush, the one she had used for all her most important works. He tucked it into his jacket pocket, close to his heart. Standing in their bedroom one last time before leaving, Kara looked at the space that had been his grief cave for the past week. The morning sun streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air like the stardust from his dream. On Megan's vanity, her wedding ring caught the light, sending a rainbow across the wall. He picked up the ring and the chain she had left beside it, sliding the ring onto the chain and placing it around his neck. It settled against his chest, warm and comforting, a physical reminder of a love that would never die. As he walked out of the house, the Arizona morning was painting the sky in the same colors that had graced their wedding day. 2 doves flew overhead, their wings catching the sunlight. Kara smiled, remembering the 2 bright stars from his dream. It was time to begin the next chapter of their story. In the car on the way to the airport, he felt a profound sense of peace settle over him. Grief still lived in his heart, but now it shared space with hope, with purpose, with the promise of new life and new love. Megan had given him one final gift, the courage to move forward while keeping their love alive in a different way. The private jet waited on the tarmac, gleaming in the morning sun. As Kara climbed the steps, he touched the paintbrush in his pocket and the ring against his chest. "I love you, Megan," he whispered to the desert wind. "Watch over us." As the jet took off into the endless Arizona sky, Kara Schmidt was no longer running from his grief, but moving toward his future, toward his children, toward the family Megan had dreamed for them, toward a love that would honor her memory while making room for new joy. The sun painted the clouds in brilliant colors as they flew east, each hue a promise of the vibrant life waiting to begin. 20 years had painted silver threads through Kara Schmidt's dark hair, each one a testament to a life lived fully, deeply, and with unwavering love. He stood before Megan's grave on a perfect Arizona morning, the desert in full bloom around the white marble monument that marked her final resting place. Fresh flowers, desert wildflowers, her favorite, lay at the base of the headstone, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the polished stone. "Happy anniversary, my love," he whispered, touching the cool marble with familiar tenderness. 20 years had passed since she left them, yet her presence remained as vital as ever in their lives. The twins, Alexander and Isabella, now stood tall and proud at 19, each carrying pieces of their complex legacy in their own unique ways. Isabella, with Oprah's grace and Meghan's artistic soul, had grown into a remarkable young woman. Her paintings hung in galleries across the country, each one signed with 3 initials, her own and both her mother's. She painted like Meghan, with the same ability to capture emotion in color, but her style was uniquely her own, influenced by both the mother she never met and the one who had raised her with boundless love. Alexander had inherited Kara's technological brilliance and Oprah's compassionate heart. At Stanford, where it all began, he was developing revolutionary healthcare technology, inspired by both Meghan's battle with cancer and his birth mother's early struggles to afford medical care. His research focused on making advanced medical treatments accessible to everyone, regardless of their financial status. As Kara stood lost in thought, he heard familiar footsteps approaching. Oprah, still beautiful at 41, joined him at the grave, her hand slipping naturally into his. Their journey from awkward arrangement to deep love had been gradual, respectful, and somehow exactly what Meghan had envisioned in her final letter. "The roses in her garden bloomed early this year," Oprah said softly, placing her own bouquet beside Kara's wildflowers. Their relationship with Meghan's memory had evolved into something beautiful and unique, not a shadow over their love, but a blessing that had brought them together, a foundation upon which they had built their own story. The twins appeared moments later, carrying the birthday gifts they traditionally left at their first mother's grave, Isabella's latest painting and Alexander's most recent research publication. They had grown up knowing they were loved by 3 parents, one who watched over them from heaven, and 2 who had created a home filled with both joy and remembrance. Isabella knelt before the grave, her fingers tracing the inscription Meghan had chosen herself. "Love never dies, it simply finds new ways to bloom." The words had proven prophetic, describing perfectly how their unusual family had flourished. "I dreamed about her last night," Isabella said, her voice soft with emotion. "She was in her studio, painting with colors I've never seen before. She showed me how to mix light with shadow, joy with grief, past with future. When I woke up, I finished the painting I've been struggling with for months." Alexander placed his research paper carefully among the flowers. "The algorithm finally worked," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The one I've been developing for early cancer detection. The results show it could save thousands of lives." He touched the headstone gently. "I think she would have liked that." Kara felt tears slip down his cheeks as he watched his children honor their mother's memory. Every milestone in their lives had been celebrated here. First steps, first words, first day of school, graduations. Meghan's presence had been woven into the fabric of their family life, not as a ghost to be mourned, but as a guardian angel to be cherished. The blue chair from their childhood classroom still sat in the family room, now worn smooth by years of bedtime stories, homework sessions, and heart-to-heart talks. It had become a symbol of their family's unique journey, how love could save spaces in unexpected ways, how the past could nurture the future without overshadowing it. Oprah had brought her own traditions to their remembrance of Meghan. Each year on this day, she would bake Meghan's favorite lemon lavender cookies from the recipe she had left behind. The house would fill with the scent of love and memory, of past and present mingling in sweet harmony. The sun climbed higher in the sky as the family stood together, each lost in their own thoughts and memories. The desert breeze carried the scent of blooming cacti, and somewhere in the distance, a dove cooed softly. These moments at Megan's grave had become sacred family rituals, times when they could feel the full circle of their love story. The pain and the joy, the loss and the gain, the endings and beginnings that had shaped them. Isabella broke the silence first, pulling out her sketchbook. "I want to show you something," she said, opening to a fresh page. With sure strokes, she began to draw the scene before her, not just the physical reality of the grave and flowers, but somehow capturing the invisible bonds that connected them all. As she drew, she hummed softly, the same tune Megan used to hum while painting, though Isabella had never heard it in life. Alexander pulled out his tablet, showing them the latest results of his research. "We're calling it the Megan Protocol," he explained, his voice full of pride and purpose. "It's not just about detecting cancer earlier, it's about making sure everyone has access to the treatment they need. No one should have to choose between medical care and education." His eyes met Oprah's, acknowledging the sacrifice and struggle that had brought them all together. Kara wrapped an arm around Oprah's waist, drawing her close as they watched their children share their achievements. This was Megan's true legacy, not just the twins themselves, but the way their family had learned to hold both joy and sorrow, to celebrate love in all its forms, to find beauty in the unexpected turns of life. As they prepared to leave, Kara knelt one last time before the grave. From his pocket, he pulled out a small, worn paintbrush, Megan's favorite, the one he had taken to Switzerland 20 years ago. He had carried it every day since, a tangible reminder of her love and sacrifice. Now, with gentle hands, he placed it among the flowers. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice catching with emotion, "for everything. For our children, for Oprah, for showing us how to love beyond boundaries and time. We keep your memory alive in every color we add to the canvas of our lives." The family walked back to their cars together, their shadows merging in the bright desert sun. Above them, two doves flew in perfect synchronization across the brilliant blue sky. The desert bloomed around them, life persisting in the face of harsh conditions, beauty emerging from unlikely places, much like their own story. That evening, they gathered in the garden Megan had planted, now tended by both Oprah's careful hands and Isabella's artistic vision. As the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in the same colors that had graced Kara and Megan's wedding day, they shared memories and dreams, laughter and tears, the past and future blending into a tapestry of enduring love. The story of Megan, Kara, and Oprah had become legend in Arizona, not just for its unusual circumstances, but for the profound truth it revealed about love's ability to transcend conventional boundaries, to heal wounds, to create beauty from pain. Their family stood as testament to the fact that love, in its purest form, knows no limitations, not of time, not of death, not of society's expectations. As night fell and stars began to appear, Kara looked up at the two brightest stars that had guided him 20 years ago. His hand found Oprah's, their fingers intertwining with the ease of long practice and deep love. Somewhere, he knew, Megan was smiling, her artist's soul satisfied with the masterpiece their lives had become. Love indeed never died. It simply found new ways to bloom, painting the world in ever-changing colors of joy, remembrance, and endless possibility. To those who have loved and lost, when loss carves its hollow space in your heart, or betrayal shatters the world you thought you knew, it's easy to believe that your story has ended. The pain can feel like an ocean with no shore in sight, each wave of grief threatening to pull you under. But I want to share with you what Megan and Kara's story teaches us about love, loss, and the courage to begin again. First, Understand that your pain is valid. Whether through death or betrayal, losing someone you love creates a void that seems impossible to fill. Don't let anyone tell you how to grieve or when to move on. Your journey is uniquely yours, and healing has no timeline. Like Kara in his darkened room, you have the right to feel the full depth of your loss. But remember this: grief is not a room to live in forever. It's a door to walk through. Each day you survive is a testament to your strength. Even if all you did was breathe and remember, your tears water the seeds of your future healing, and your darkest moments are preparing you for a dawn you cannot yet see. To those betrayed. Betrayal can make you question not just love, but your own judgment and worth. It can make the world feel unsafe, untrustworthy. But understand this: another person's failure to be faithful does not diminish your value. Their choices reflect their character, not your worthiness of love. Like Victoria's betrayal in our story, what seems like an ending can actually be redirecting you to where you were always meant to be. Your capacity to love and trust is a gift, not a weakness. Don't let someone else's darkness dim your light. Take time to heal, to rebuild your foundations, but don't wall off your heart forever. Trust can be rebuilt, love can be found again, and often the strongest bonds are forged by hearts that have been tested by fire. To those who have lost, when death takes your loved one, it can feel like the colors have drained from the world. Everything reminds you of their absence: empty chairs, quiet mornings, unfinished conversations. But remember what Megan taught us: love doesn't end with death. It transforms, finding new ways to manifest in our lives. Your loved one's story continues through you, through the values they instilled, the dreams they inspired, the love they gave. Like Megan's art adorning the walls, their influence can continue to add beauty to the world through your actions and choices. Their physical absence, though painful, cannot erase the mark they left on your soul. To all who are healing. 1. Honor your journey. Allow yourself to feel everything: the pain, the anger, the moments of unexpected joy. Trust that healing isn't linear. Some days will be harder than others, and that's okay. Keep mementos of love, but don't turn your life into a museum of loss too. Find your blue chair. Create spaces that combine memory with hope. Look for symbols of new beginnings. Allow new dreams to grow alongside your remembrance 3. Build your support system. Surround yourself with people who understand that healing takes time. Don't be afraid to seek professional help. Share your story with others who are walking similar paths. 4. Practice active healing. Channel your pain into creative expression. Find ways to honor your lost love while building your new life. Create rituals that acknowledge both your past and your future. 5. Open your heart. Gradually. Don't rush into new relationships, but don't close yourself off entirely. Learn to trust your instincts again. Understand that new love doesn't diminish past love. Remember, your capacity for joy is not diminished by loss. Every end holds the seeds of a new beginning. You are stronger than you know. Love can find you in unexpected ways. Your story isn't over. It's just taking an unexpected turn, like the desert flowers that bloom after rain. The most beautiful chapters of your life may still be waiting to unfold. Your heart, though wounded, has an infinite capacity for healing and growth. Let your loss teach you compassion, your pain guide you to wisdom, and your love, past and future, lead you to new possibilities. The future may not look like what you once imagined, but it can still be beautiful. Like Kara finding new love while honoring Megan's memory, or like Oprah finding family in unexpected places, your path forward may surprise you with its gifts. You are not alone in this journey. Every person who has loved deeply has also risked loss, and every heart that has been broken has the capacity to heal. Your wounds may become wisdom, your grief may become grace, and your loss may lead you to love in ways you never imagined possible. Keep walking, keep hoping, Keep your heart open to life's possibilities. Your story isn't over. It's simply turning to a new chapter. And like all the best stories, it has the potential to be more beautiful than you ever dreamed possible, with hope and faith in your journey, for all those finding their way back to love. Subscribe if you liked,